Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. This is a really big day for us here at Ubisoft Toronto, and we're so pleased that you could be here with us. We are going to fill you in on some of our news, but I am not going to scoop anyone. So I am just going to, I would like though, before we get to our news today, I would like to call up the Honourable Brad Dogood, the Minister of Economic Development and Innovation, who's here with us today for this milestone for Ubisoft Toronto. Minister?
Thank you very much. And I'm going to try not to scoop the news myself, but it's kind of hard to speak ahead of this and not give a few hints as to why we're here. I think most people know why we're here anyway. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you all for being here this morning. What a thrill it is to be in what I consider to be an absolute hotbed of creativity and innovation in the studio here today, and frankly throughout Ubisoft here in Toronto and throughout its organization around the world. Today we celebrate the opening of this spectacular state-of-the-art motion capture studio, and I hope that's not too much of a scoop on you. This studio will keep Ubisoft at the forefront of one of the most competitive industries in the world today. And this industry is so highly competitive and moving at such lightning speed that companies like Ubisoft and their spectacular ability to stay at the cutting edge are why this company has remained a global leader for such a long time.
Today, we celebrate a major milestone. Today, we unveil the state-of-the-art performance capture facility you see before you. And I couldn't be more proud of what our team has built here. This is a big day for Ubisoft Toronto and for our company as a whole. It's really very hard for me to believe that this beautiful studio you are sitting in today was jam-packed with storage units just 6 months ago. But once again, our team delivered. And this is a huge year for Ubisoft in Canada. For those that don't know, we celebrate our 15th anniversary this year. Since establishing the Ubisoft Montreal studio in 1997, our Canadian teams have created some of the world's most critically acclaimed game franchises. Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, Far Cry, and of course, Tom Clancy's Splinter, being led by our team here in Toronto. Our teams strive to lead what's next for our industry, from both a technical and creative perspective. Virtual production, specifically performance capture, is a critical part of the experience we provide to players around the world. It contributes to storytelling in our games and delivers narrative and interactive gameplay to maximize immersion for the player. Games are not films. Games, like films, are about telling stories, but with a fundamental difference: interactivity. And the technology and the tools we provide our teams to create the best interactive experiences out there are of Hollywood caliber. By giving them access to this facility, our team continues its journey to define the future of storytelling in games at Ubisoft. I know it's not a small statement, but opening a world-class performance capture studio in Toronto after just 2 years of operation is a true testament to the talented team we've assembled here at the studio and to our confidence in the local talent and resources here in Ontario. Today's announcement goes much deeper than the investment in a cutting-edge facility. While this new performance capture studio obviously directly impacts the productions being created here in Toronto, it will also have an impact on games being made at Ubisoft around the world, since we will welcome Ubisoft projects being created across our 26 studios. This is a tremendous international window for Ubisoft and Toronto's talent. Give you more insight on the approach to performance capture at Ubisoft Toronto. Devin, I'll let you call the action now.
scene a bit later, but first I'm going to introduce some of the background information on performance capture. I first set foot in a motion capture volume more than 10 years ago on a movie called I, Robot, starring Will Smith. And I can assure you things have changed dramatically since then. The volume was about 15 feet by 20 feet. We weren't able to capture any facial performances, and we also didn't capture any dialogue. Every time we tried to capture more than 4 performances at once, the computer seemed to crash and we had to start up all over again. I'll never forget the first time I walked onto that set. I was terrified. I saw this ring of cameras around me, just like this, all on pedestals and on armature all around the stage. I probably felt a lot like some of you seeing this for the first time, intimidated by all the technology and the tech terms like mocap, cloud data, marker volume. But there's something that I knew for sure. I knew that this was going to be a huge change in how we make films, how we make video games, and how technology is going to create entertainment. And I was really excited about it. Here I am in Ubisoft Toronto studio, a 1-minute walk from my desk. And I can honestly say this is the best motion capture studio I have ever shot in the last 10 years. And I'll try to explain why. I'm still mic, right? Yeah. So the width of our volume is 55 feet and by 33 feet. And we have 15 feet of height. And when I say volume, that's kind of like a bubble where we capture all the data. We have 80 T160 cameras around the room. We have 6 wireless head-mounted Hmc cameras. This is for capturing facial. And we have 4 reference cameras we keep around the volume, and they float in while we're shooting, that capture HD live footage of what we're shooting, and then give us instantaneous playback on 2 60-inch screens up above the volume here. All that plugs into audio. Right over here we have a Pro Tools setup that we have 2 boom microphones and all the lavaliers on the actors that are plugging into that station and going up to the bridge. Stunt beam for aerial work, for doing ratchet pulls, and a workshop in the corner there for building proxies and props that we use on stage. I'm going to try to explain a bit about all that technology quickly. So these are T160 cameras around the edge. What they are sensor cameras, and their sole purpose is to look for markers. So if I was an actor standing in the volume right now, all of the cameras on this side of the stage would be able to say that there's a marker on my chest, and they'd also be able to see that it's moving in time and space. Together, all the cameras, they find all the markers on my body, and they take that and they put it up to the bridge, and we apply that to a CG skeleton. We call it cloud data. There's something we call occlusion, which is a big part of what makes mocap challenging in our industry. Because the cameras over here, they can see my chest marker, but the cameras behind me, they can't see my chest marker. So all the cameras have to talk to each other. And what they say is, where's the chest marker? And these cameras over here say, don't worry, I'm tracking it, it's right over here. So all the cameras work together to say where every marker is. And that seems like it could be pretty simple in this volume, with just me standing here and the cameras all talking to each other. But once you start adding people to the volume, it gets much more complicated, and we get much more occlusion. So the art of mocap depends on where you put the cameras, the quality of the cameras, and their proximity to each other, and how well they communicate up to the bridge there. What we have, the setup we have here today is incredible. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually captured 11 actors simultaneously walking through the volume with head-mounted cameras and dialogue all at the same time. Something that would have been unheard of even 5 years ago. The Hmc cameras is what we use to capture facial. You can see there's a small camera on the end of this armature. They're light, they're comfortable, sort of. And what they do is they send a video signal back up at the bridge, and they record all the facial expressions in time and space, along with time code, along with the body data. The microphone on the end here, along with 2 boom microphones, also record audio at the same time. Everything going back up to the bridge. So what we get is a vertical slice of body, face, and voice all at the same time, which sounds kind of like it should be par for the course, but it hasn't been. It's only been the last couple of years that we're doing this all at the same time, and it's a total game changer in terms of capturing performance. And that's why we call it performance capture, not motion capture. The stunt beam that we have here is made to carry huge loads, and we use it for ratchet pulls and for flying actors and putting people on harnesses. It's really important when you have a lot of action in your games like we do. We use it all the time. And you might have noticed the lighting setup we have around the edge here. This is new. I've never seen this before in a mocap studio. And what it means is it gives a nice even lighting to everyone's faces, because the head-mounted cameras don't like shadows. They make it very difficult to track facial. Most importantly is our virtual camera, which we're still developing, but we've developed it in partnership with CERT, with John Helliker and Bert Dunk. This camera allows us to go into the volume after we've captured performance and shoot it take by take, like you would on a regular film set. And I'll try to explain that a bit. Well, actually, I'll give it a shot now. So imagine I were to shoot a scene in here, and I would do 5 or 6 takes of the scene. I would take those performances, I would cut them all together, I would send them upstairs, I would put them together in one file, and then they would send it back down to me. The gentleman up on the bridge there would bring the scene up inside the volume here. The volume knows where my camera is, and it puts the scene on this camera right in front of me. So as I walk around, all I can see are the actors waiting on their start mark. And then I hit a button on the side of the camera, and they start performing. And then I can start shooting the scene. If I make a mistake, I just cut it, and I start again, and all the actors go back to their first mark. Over and over and over again. And that is dramatic, because what we're talking about is coverage. And coverage is a term that you'll hear in film and television. And it changes the way we make performances in video games. Instead of blocking out every single shot that we're going to see in a performance, we can just shoot a whole bunch of amazing dynamic cameras, not really know what we're going to end up with. We send it up into editorial, like you would have on any film or television production, and we look for the story, and we look for it, and we find things that we weren't expecting, because we shot coverage, and that's what this lets us do. And it makes all of our cameras look extremely natural. Everything we've learned in the last 10 years has gone into this stage. And when I say we, I don't mean me, I mean Tony Monaco, Graham Qualley, Matteo Gardi, Guillaume Plourde, all with the assistance of Francois Bayorge, who helped us put this all together. Everything we've learned has gone into this volume. And I can honestly say it makes shooting easier than it's ever been before. What it's starting to do is it's starting to make the technology invisible and allows us to focus on the performance. Starting from pre-production all the way to post-production, our pipeline is looking more and more like a film and television pipeline. And that isn't a catchphrase. It's completely true. We are standing on the shoulders of giants in the sense that we've adapted workflows that have been tried and tested for 50 years, and we're making it the center of our entire production. Time code, coverage, virtual cameras, and making editorial the center of our entire production. Everything is performance-based. It isn't like the old days. I remember like 10 years ago, when I would do a scene on a mocap volume, someone would come up to me and say, okay, which take do you want? What's your A take? And what's your B take? So I would do 9 or 10 takes, and I'd have to choose one or the other. And then when I go upstairs, I'd get it about a month and a half later, and it would just be a bunch of data in a scene. And I'd be sitting there thinking, geez, I don't remember. I really thought I got that line better, or I really hope to get that head turn. The difference is, now what we're doing is we're going into the volume, and we're doing 15 or 20 takes, like you would normally do on a film or television set. All of those takes go up to editorial, and we take the best of the best. And as you all know, sometimes stories reveal themselves in editorial. They weren't even on set, and editors are finding stories that weren't there.